Hi, everybody. I'm Kesha Martine, and I'm a licensed professional counselor. And due to the current state of events that have taken place as a result of George Floyd's death, I wanted to share some of my thoughts. And the reason why I decided to share some thoughts is because a video was shared with me about it was a Black woman's perspective on the situation. And her take on that was that she was not going to play into the fact that he's being seen as a martyr. And this disturbed me on a deep level because she failed to address part of what perpetuates the systemic racism. And granted, she did, say that she didn't feel like he deserved to die, but her focus was on his criminal record. And the reason why this disturbed me so deeply is because the main issue here was overlooked. And I feel like her focus on that really perpetuates certain perspectives about the identity of a Black man and what it means to be a Black man and, assumptions about Black men and Black people in general. So one thing that was not addressed, and I think that we need to pay attention to for those of you who want to stand up and stand together and support and protest, is that you have to be aware of what plays a role in systemic racism, right? So if we look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which is a motivational theory in psychology, and it's a 5-tier model of human needs, and if you look at it under that context and that lens, I think it will open your eyes a lot to what's going on. So what made him a criminal? What made him have a record? What contributed to his addiction problem? And this is highly overlooked in her platform or her viewpoint. And if we look at that 5-tier model, you have basic needs, psychological needs, and then you have needs for self-fulfillment, right? And under the basic needs, there is 2 steps: physiological needs, food, warm, water, rest, etc. And then the second tier is safety needs, security and safety. This is exactly what the protesters are trying to get people's attention about, right? People in these communities are unable to reach their full potential, including, achieving great things for some people, because they don't have the first 2 met, right? It's impossible to get to the third step, which is belongingness and love and needs, sometimes even within their own communities, right? It's very difficult to connect with other people if you're worried about, if you can walk down the street or drive your car or whatever. And so I am reaching out to you guys to share this perspective because I've had some questions, and I think that this is the way to start looking at it here. So I would encourage you to look at this model and reflect on how it applies to you. Ask yourself, okay, where am I in this hierarchy of needs? Okay, do I have this met? Do I have this met? Do I have this met? Great, wonderful. This is where I'm at. Now look at your neighbor, people in the Black communities, and ask yourself, do they have those things? And if not, ask yourself, what can I do to help them? And that's what this is about. And until we acknowledge how broken the system is, which has led to some of this destructive issues in Black communities, we're not going to get very far just protesting and marching in the streets. We need reparations and we need legislation. And I know people cringe at reparations, but if we look at it under the lens of, the course of history, right? Black communities have been given scraps, essentially. And they're like, okay, you're free, go forth, pursue happiness and blah, blah, blah. But you're only given scraps. And you've been given scraps for 50 years. And it's unrealistic to expect to go very far with those scraps. And, this is a factor in what happens in the lives of Black people. And I know that sometimes it's very difficult for people to confront their privilege. And I understand it's very difficult to challenge your assumptions, to look at your worldview, how that affects, your ability to move through life. But we need to do that. White people need to do that. Everybody that has a certain level of privilege needs to do that. I myself have a certain level of privilege because my mom was white. But what bothers me is that, people with privilege refusing to look to see how they can use their privilege to help people, to help them reach that self-actualization tier in that hierarchy. Okay? So if you're really wanting to help, look very deeply at these systems in place which do oppress. You don't have equal education opportunities. You get frustrated when you do try to make progress, and then you're met and you're slapped in the face again with someone that has these preconceived notions about you. And so it can be very tiring. And, we've fought for so long to get those little bitty scraps, and we keep fighting and we keep fighting and we keep fighting, and it's tiring. It is so tiring. And so we need your help. We need you to stand up. We need you to speak out, and we need you to confront it when you see it. And if you don't know what it looks like, if you don't know what racism looks like because you've been privileged enough not to have to face it or see any of your friends deal with it, then I'm really happy for you. That's great. But you need to educate yourself about what that does look like, including microaggressions. If you see something, you've got to speak out. Because sometimes when we do it, we're playing the race card. We're victims, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I could go on and on and on. So we do need your help to support us to address these things when it happens. And so I think it's just imperative for people to try to set aside some of these false beliefs that are often perpetuated on both sides of the aisle. And both white people and black people need to ask themselves how they're contributing to this cycle. What can I do to change this cycle? How can I use what I have to help my neighbor? And how can I speak out for these communities? Anyway, I really wanted to just get that off of my chest and share that with you. For anybody who saw what I'm referring to, if you haven't, her name is Candace Owens. Not a fan. Respect that she has a different opinion, but I do believe that there is much to be discussed around what she has to say in terms of rap sheets or criminal records with black men. That is just not what we need to focus on, and yes, he is a martyr, and you can be a martyr without having an impeccable record. The issue is that this happened, and what made this happen, what contributed to this cycle, what played a role in this man's life, that led him to these circumstances. I'm not sure how much that played a role in how the cops responded to him, but that doesn't matter. What matters is he's not seen as a person. He's not seen as someone that has struggles and has things he has to deal with. No, he's seen as a black man doing something that he's not supposed to do, period. There is no extension of empathy oftentimes with these interactions. What makes you afraid? What makes you feel like you have to put your hand on your pistol when you stop someone of color? Those are questions that the police need to ask themselves for sure, but also people in the community. We need to help each other feel safe. If you don't feel safe, we need to address what the reason is. And that, again, goes for both sides of the aisle. Like, what do you need from our community to ensure that you feel safe, and vice versa, so that we can all come together and meet our full potential in both as individuals and as a society and in our communities. Anyway, I hope this provide some enlightenment here. Google Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Educate yourself a little bit more on that tier model. And if you have questions, or you'd like to know more, or you want to rant, I'm here to listen. And if you have any statements or want to share any of your experiences, again, I'm here to listen. And thanks for listening. I know that I'm passionate and pretty angry about the situation, so I can go on and ramble a little bit, but I hope this makes sense to you, and if it doesn't, then I'm here to clarify. Anyway, thanks for listening. Be well, be strong, and be love.